Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday Recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games. And well, I would say I'd had a decent week when it comes to EVE Online on TQ, mostly focused around trading. This week it was Advanced Moon Materials that I've made some investments in. Hopefully they'll work out, and I do think that I bought really low, so it should be okay. In order to try and eke out a profit there. Obviously, I also have my Take-Two ship investments that are starting to be decently sizable. I would say I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I might want to buy a couple more if the price is right, but I'm starting to feel like I'm ready. On the PI front, still another very strong week for PI. Prices are going up, sometimes plateauing, so there are the first few signs that perhaps the end or the top is coming in, but a couple of them are making new one-year highs as well. And yeah, I started my PI in Galente space, so I can easily move that to JITA and get the prices that I'm seeing from EVE Talk. So overall, I think that business will be up and running once the planets have produced a little bit more than what they have at this point. And then for the BBCs, we're still, I still think have to wait one more day until all the jobs are done, and then I can basically get my full start 10 BPC runs on a 10-day basis and try to sell those as well, which has gone really well still for the freighters. So those are going for like 20 million a pop or something like that. Carriers, stuff like that, it's a little bit less substantial in margin, and the Orca is still struggling. Basically the focus for mining ships is obviously now back to the mining barges, and the Orca is more of a support ship, so there's no need to make that many of them. You don't have to own an Orca as a miner, and as a result those prices have not gone up as much as the freighters, for instance. I think those are being produced quite massively. Then for the Thursday there was a mass test as well, focused around sound, so a couple more improvements for the audio in EVE Online is what CCP is working on as well. The aim, if I'm not mistaken, was to try and get into situations where there was a lot of sound, so 100 people on grid shooting a structure, for instance, and then to reduce the amount of sounds that the client would actually produce, you know, when it finds itself that there's like a lot of stuff going on. So from my perspective, everything worked really well, and I think the major improvement for me was that whenever I would zoom out, we would lose all of the sound. And before that, there were quite often some module effects that kept being stuck. I think especially some boosting effects were like very overwhelming. Then afterburners, micro warp drives, things like that would stick around. For this one, I have to say it worked really well. Yeah, EVE Online does have sound, and I was quite surprised at how dynamic it was. So getting closer to a ship, you would all of a sudden start to really hear their weapon system come to the forefront, while having a little bit less of everything else in the background. So I think that this is potentially a nice improvement. Now, they did mention that there were still a couple of bugs, and I was in a very passive rattlesnake, so I think it's your own module sounds that might still stick around a little bit. That could be a problem here and there, but it's good, I think, that CCP is trying to improve on that, because there's nothing more annoying than to like finish a combat site, get out of that, and then have some of those very intense sounds that would stick around. So another good mass test in my opinion. Their performance wise, everything was going really swimmingly as well. Could fully move the client camera around without having to worry that we would crash or anything like that. So it felt quite robust, and CCP also mentioned that there's probably going to be another mass test in September to look at those improvements for audio in EVE Online. And other than that, we are of course waiting for the story to develop for the faction warfare updates that CCP is planning, and CCP released a dev blog around that as well, that the story arc has basically officially started. And as far as I understand it, at the moment the focus is on the empires trying to basically replicate the Triglavian tech of being able to use a star somehow in order to get something out of that. So that could be very interesting, that they're also working on that technology. And what the consequences might be for EVE Online in general. Who knows, but that's something that we will keep an eye out for. I think the Twitter feed from CCP themselves, so for the EVE Online Twitter, was the best place to keep an eye on like potentially things to do. But at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, the things to do have all been for active faction warfare players. And I think that for a lot of us that are not in faction warfare, we might have to wait for the allegiance system to get into the game so that we can declare our allegiance to one of the 4 empires. We don't have to basically join a faction warfare corporation in order to do that, and that then we'll be able to interact a little bit more with us, what CCP is planning for that update. But of course, I'll keep you guys up to date as that evolves. And this brings me to the second game of the week, which is of course Path of Exile, with the first week of the Lake of Kalandra League. Quite a bit of controversy actually in general with the lower loot drops and then the problems with communication from GGG. There was definitely quite a bit of outrage from the players and on the subreddit. As always, subreddits are not super representative, but it would definitely, you could feel the heat if you followed any streamers that usually cover Path of Exile. So for myself, mostly watching Creparian and Queen69. And from my perspective, I'll be honest, I was having fun, and I'm still having fun with Lake of Kalandra, even with the lower amounts of drops. Now, maybe it's also because I had a plan this time, and I've been really lucky actually with the drops that I did get. So I moved on to my second character this week, and this time it was, as I mentioned, Summon Raging Spirits, so some Explodey Boys was the attempt, and I actually chose the Oculist for this one, and going with 4 curses that would be applied with a single press button. So for that I used the glove, Vixens. I think, not exactly sure what the full name is, but they're basically gloves where you put in some other curse gems, and if you then apply a curse on an enemy, the curse gems that are in the gloves are also applied there. And being an Oculist gives me another +1. It means that I can also curse hexproof minions, and then on the tree and through the Vixens I can get up to 4 curses on a single button press. And because I went SRS with my other minions being a flame golem, a chaos golem, because we do get a chaos explosion as well for free with the Oculist. And then I actually use specters that I'm not sure what the name is anymore, but you get them from Heist, and their basic ranged attack always ignites, and then they also use explosive arrow. So it's a lot of fire damage, and whenever I meet a rare or a boss, I just apply 4 curses of them, which is elemental weakness, then we get flammability, then we get more dots for all of the ignites, so Despair, I think that one is called, and then there's also a red curse. I'm not sure what that name is, but it basically they take like 60-70% more damage at low life, and sometimes the bosses really melt in that second half of their HP pool. It's really strong in my opinion, probably one of the strongest builds that I've made for myself, and just thinking about what would be the option. And then Oculist has a couple of other really strong things going for it, such as immunity to stun, and then I went with chaos inoculation, so I'm immune to chaos damage. Overall, really happy, and what made my day was, first of all, the helmet dropped. So the helmet for Summon Raging Spirits, so I can only get up to 5, but they deal a lot more damage, and all their hits ignite as well. Really perfect for what I wanted to do. And then 2 flasks actually dropped as well, including one that gives allowed me to use my life flasks in order to get back energy shield. So that was really perfect. I automated all my flasks at this point as well, and sometimes I can just zoom through a map, destroy almost everything with absolutely no effort, and the easiest time so far for me personally bossing that I've ever had. Just drop my 5 drop my curses, then get up to 5 skulls and watch the boss melt while I just zoom around the periphery. So really nice. Got the 6 link for 30 chaos at this point, and then invested like up to 5 chaos in a couple of pieces just to get mostly more energy shield. But yeah, Lake of Calandra from my perspective, very nice. I actually enjoy playing it, and I also enjoy the league mechanic, building your own map, trying to decide on your rewards. I'm personally at the moment building maps that are not too dangerous, so keeping the entrance very central means that some of the parts don't become too hard to do. But overall, yeah, quite a blast, and probably my strongest character so far in Path of Exile, and could be one of my new go-to characters, because just dropping 4 curses with a single button press is very satisfying. Anyways, that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.